I am bored and lonely. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. Yes, I'm doing 4 album reviews in a row. I'm a genius. And today I'm doing another album review on an album released this year, and it is Black Midi with Schlagenheim. So Black Midi is a UK post-punk rock band, and this is their debut album. Yeah. And Black Midi, they are a really weird and strange rock band. They make music that I have never heard before. All of their ideas are pretty original and freaky and creative. Usually their songs would have strange mathematic guitar grooves, some really freaky unhinged vocals, and their sound style in general is really weird, and it may not be everybody's cup of tea. However, I have listened to this album multiple times and I like it a lot. And it's not like they don't sound like any other bands at all. Their music has a little bit of art, a little bit of parquet chords, and actually a lot of slint, except they are even weirder and more aggressive. So the album starts off with 9:53 with these really odd, harsh, cycling guitar riffs, which then stops and smoothly transitions over to some really beautiful and sunny guitar passages. Just this transition itself is already able to convince me to listen to the rest of the album. After that, we get some really freaky and unhinged vocals, which I'm not too crazy about at the beginning, but I really appreciate the style here. And at the end of the track, all the guitars and the pianos, they just melt over one another. It's crazy, it's climactic, it's deranged, and yeah. And then the next track is Speedway, which is sonically really different from 9:53. We get these very gentle, very soft hits of guitars and drums, and I think keys, and they're really gentle, really uniform, and not much is happening. And then in the back we get some hustly, bustly percussions, which remind me a lot of the Talking Heads. And actually the lyrics, they are really weird. They talk a lot about coding. Honey, won't build this code. Honey, won't build. And at the very end, again, the track just hits a climax, the instrumental swell, and it's pretty crazy. Woo! And then after that, it's reggae, which is not one of the better tracks on the album, but I still like it a lot for what it is. It's wild, it's lively, it's freaky, and it has a really strong post-punk vibe to it. And it also has some really over-the-top xylophones and these super dramatic, rambly, wordy rants all over the track. And I guess the only thing that makes this track not as attractive as other tracks on the album is that it isn't as catchy, as memorable, and the guitar riffs, they are a little bit choppy for it to be continuous or progressive. However, the next track, Near DTMI, or Near Detroit, Michigan, is whoa, it's crazy. At first we get some really terrorizing, jagged, ragged guitar riffs that are scary, and then it drops and we get this very moody, gloomy, dark, somber, atmospheric guitar passages that just really lets the lyrics and the vocals shine. And all of the tracks on this album are performed by this man with a very freaky voice. But the tracks Speedway and Near DTMI are performed by another person whose voice is a little bit more low-key and a little bit more simplistic, but when it explodes, it does explode. There's lead in the water! There's lead in the water! It's crazy. The ending is just explosive. The guitars just explode in all directions in a really sharp and shrill way. It is really stunning, and the track talks about lead being in the water, and it talks about the water crisis that Michigan recently had undergone, and it's really scary. It gives you nightmares, and it's fantastic. And up next we have the track Western, which is like a little over 8 minutes long, and it's a multifaceted, weird, twisty, twangy thing. At first it sounds like it's gonna be a sweet ballad, but then it changes into something else, and then something else, and then something else. I don't want to elaborate much because it's hard to describe music like this. But the lyrics, they are really unhinged. They're really crazy. You're talking about going to an anteater town, and then another anteater town, and then another anteater town. Kind of reminds me of Salvador Dali for some reason, because doesn't he have an anteater pet? And the next track is of Schlagenheim. And at first it feels like a really bad and trippy fever dream that has these mutinous and sickening guitar riffs that are just melting in and out of the background. And then again, it becomes this really crazy, multifaceted, monstrous Frankenstein rock song with some really winding progressive riffs. At some occasions, the track becomes this raw, rambly, sharp, freaky freak out, and at some points it almost sounds a little like jazz fusion. At some points it's really soft, quiet, and really sunny and warm, and at the very end we just get some really, really harsh, almost 80s throwback funk rock, except without the funk part, if you get what I mean. And it's a pretty amazingly creative and also really sticky and memorable rock song, I must say. Same goes for the next track, bmbmbm, except sonically it's night and day. It's really different. This track is really weird, really abstract, and throughout the entire track we get these really uniform and stale guitar strikes, and at the back we get some horror screams that are just going nuts, and we have the freaky vocals, which aren't even vocals. They're just rambly rants that are that have no structure at all. What a purpose! What a magnificent purpose! What a magnificent purpose! What a purpose! And the track Years Ago, it's a little more low-key at the beginning, and then it builds up to a noise rock climax. While the track feels refreshing, it feels like the weakest track on the entire album because it's not as appealing and it feels like it's a little too fluid. And the ending of the album is Ducter, and it feels the most solid, the most uniform, with these cyclic guitar crisps, these 3 notes being played over and over and over again with a lot of crisp. I like the drums. They are crunchy, they are on point. Even though overall the song is not the most grandiose and crazy ending to the album, I still really like it. It's satisfying, it's conclusive, and overall this album is pretty crazy, it's pretty whack, pretty deranged, pretty weird, and I really like this weird post-punk direction that is sometimes very moody, sometimes really freaky and mutinous, sometimes really bright and sunny, and all melted together into one weird Frankenstein. So my favorite track here is Near DTMI, and my least favorite is Years Ago. I am giving Black Midi Schlagenheim an 8 out of 10. So, have you listened to Black Midi's Schlagenheim? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.